Hey guys, Cam from Inky Knuckles here, coming at you with our weekly Saturday Night Art Show. We got some cool stuff to share, kind of stuff that just came up last minute. A few of our regulars have been holding out on us, Gerardo, but we've got some cool stuff to share, and we're going to get to some things that we've been trying to get to for the past few weeks, but sometimes the conversation takes us to interesting spots that we don't anticipate going. So sometimes we miss some stuff. So we're going to do a bit of a condensed version tonight, probably right around an hour. And then, give everyone a little bit more time to spend with their families tonight. But first thing I just wanted to talk about really quick, we had an interesting week at Inky Knuckles this week. We introduced Mr. Bruno Seelig to the group. Bruno's got a really frenetic, crazy, fun style. He really excels in some crazy scenes and unique takes on characters. Absolutely love Bruno's work. So he joined us this week, and we opened a commission list. And I'm pretty sure we're full now. Anyone who wants to reach out or who I've been chatting with, feel free to get back to me at any point. There's a few emails I have to return still, but for the most part, I believe the list is full. I'll make an official announcement a little bit later on. But also this week, we had some special offerings from Mr. Troy Nixie, including, let me find it here, a bunch of Troy's work. We have hardcover, softcover books signed from Troy that are also available on the site. Black Sinister, Batman, Lobster Johnson, Trout, Vinegar Teeth. We have limited copies of a bunch of them, but hit us up while you can. There's signed copies, and we're offering up sketch copies as well. So big week with Troy's book offering and Bruno joining the group and his commission list. So as always, cam at inkyknuckles.com if you're interested in anything. But without further ado, let's check out what's up with the crew. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. You'll finally get some art to show off tonight.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I found some.
Yours and Mike's are segments we've been skipping for the last while, so
I probably should.
But you're not positioned quite right with your shirt there.
Oh yeah.
There for anyone watching.
There we go. There you go. It's true.
It takes on a whole new meaning, but
12 issues isn't enough for me. Tom King's too afraid to tackle my subject.
Well, we'll get him on, see what he has to say.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, next up, in no particular order, is Gerardo, the return. How you doing, brother?
How are you? All good?
Good. You've been holding out on us with some of the art that you're currently holding, that you're going to share with us tonight. So you're the only guy I know who says on WhatsApp, oh yeah, I forgot something. And then just Sienkiewicz masterpiece.
I know. But it's not signed. I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah.
It was him.
No wonder you don't pay attention to it. It's not signed. Yeah. I know I put all that art in the garage.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining back up, Zaff. You took the bye week last week. We're happy to have you back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I miss you guys.
You too, buddy.
Feelings mutual. And lastly, Mike Cimmerian. How you doing, Michael?
Good. You guys?
Good. We've been skipping your review for the last 2 weeks at least. So tonight you'll get a chance to speak.
Perfect, because I did no prep. So
okay. Despite our attempts to silence you, you will get the floor tonight. So
well, I will be sure to speak in non sequiturs and racism all night.
Yeah. You can't silence Gafractus.
I did like that. I saw that this morning when you put that out yesterday. I was like, oh, I could go with that. I could make that helmet.
The mightiest of all transformers.
Practice. Oh man, we might have to preface some of these art shows with some of the WhatsApp preamble, because there is some hilarity that's been taking place there lately. So, so getting back to our normal segments, asking you guys a question, and then just kind of kickstart some conversation. My question this week, and it comes from chatting with Stefan Rue. What is the comic that?
Oh.
There's
The
Basil.
Puppet Master. The Puppet Master.
Oh, Baz, I miss that guy. I'm surprised he's letting you do that, Mike.
Oh, he's remembering.
I'll pay for this later. She's like, I can't believe we're live.
So, yeah, what was the comic that got you back into comics? I know for a lot of people, read comics growing up. We hit those teen years. We may have stuck with it. We may not have. For me personally, I read comics growing up. Then we lost our local bookstore, and the pharmacy slowly started weeding out the good books. So I had, a fairly lengthy hiatus, and I got back into it in my early years of university when I had access to an actual comic book store again. But what led for me, and I'll just answer now because I always get off, I get away without answering these questions. But for me, it was Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis, Marvel Knights Punisher was what brought me back in. So that's an easy one for me. And
Was that like was there a couple other ones that you tried, or was that just the first one that you gravitated to?
It was, well, and before, I guess this was kind of before I had access to the LCS, but this what kickstarted it all. I was working at a grocery store, and we'd get magazines in, and they had, one was the Ultimate magazine. So it had the first issues of Ultimate X-Men, the first issues of Ultimate Spider-Man in one magazine. And then they had Marvel Knights in one magazine. It wasn't an actual comic, it was the magazine. And Marvel Knights one was, there's Daredevil, Punisher, and there was, I think, Inhumans as well. And that was the Welcome Back Frank thing. And it was just this, everything about the Ennis Punisher run is phenomenal. So,
put away your fake ID that you're going to use to buy the copy of Penthouse and decide to get back into comics.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I'll let Stefan speak to that. When you start chasing girls, drinking beers on weekends instead of reading comic books in those teen years, and then you kind of lose your way a bit. And then once you are unsuccessful chasing girls and drinking beers,
They stop paying the kid.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's mine. Mine's pretty cut and dry. Everyone's situation is a little bit different, but for me, it was definitively Ennis and Dylan Punisher. How about you, Ryan?
I guess I kind of got the three waves. Like you said, you kind of dip in, you dip out, you dip in. So I got kind of my own golden era, silver and bronze, I guess. So the first one was just when I was introduced as a kid. And then when I left that, the one that got back into it was actually Battle Chasers, because I was a dice rolling nerd at the same time. I loved comic books and drawing. So that short run, and we actually had a comic store at university, Words and Pictures, which is, the guy was super nice. I just asked him what to start reading, and it was probably around the same time, like the Ultimates run.
Yeah.
I'm still a broke student, so I couldn't, get too much, but that kind of sparked it. And when you go through the long box, you can kind of see where the gaps are.
Yeah.
So, the first gap stopped pretty early on into that early Image run. So I could tell around 92 to almost like 8 years of not really doing too much with it. And then there was that short run with Battle Chasers, and that's when they kind of had, IDW was coming out with all the Transformer stuff, G.I. Joe, and it was the art that you liked. Like that style was, I just gravitated to it. And then took another gap, and then it was, I just went and found a review site, and God Country was highly reviewed. So I went and ordered it, and I don't, like, Mike, do you remember how, when we got together, we just started talking comic books one day? I don't remember how that started, because we started chatting and then we ended up talking with Cam, and then that's kind of sparked where we are now, right? So
yeah, so I remember you and I were gonna meet for dinner and then go to a hockey game.
Mhm.
So I had to repair the circuit board on my stove. Ryan's like, I'll be at the restaurant in 10 minutes. And I just sent him a photo of my stove parts that were spread all over the kitchen. I was like, I'll be about 20.
Surgery on Bumblebee.
What's that?
Like, it looked like you just like tore apart, like serial killed a Transformer.
Oh, yeah.
There's pieces everywhere.
Actually, I got to fix something else on the stove, and I don't want to, because I know all the parts that have to come apart to do it. But then, yeah, we went to a hockey game, and I agree, Natalia. I agree. And
that's my cousin.
when we were leaving, when we left the hockey game, we were in that, like, the melee and we saw Cam and another friend, and then we ended up running into them later at a bar, and I introduced you guys. Because I said, "Oh yeah, this is my friend Cam. We do CrossFit together, obviously, because I'm huge." And then I said, "And he's into comics." And then you're like, "Oh really?" And I didn't even know you were into comics until then. And then you just
you didn't
Cam with questions.
Oh yeah.
And then I just kind of stood back as like, I've unleashed a monster.
Yeah, that was a pretty infamous night. Do you remember when I told you I needed a second to go say hello to somebody? Yeah. So that Cam got a very interrogating first impression, I guess. So
yeah, you were fired up. It was good.
It's always, this is what I'll say with folks too, is anytime you're as into the hobby as we are, into comics, into art as we are, so many people come up to you and say, "Oh, well, I have a coworker or I have a friend who's into comics." And what that usually means is that they watched Avengers.
Yeah, or read Archie. Yeah.
Or read Archie. And not to be pretentious about it or anything, but honestly, that's usually the extent of it.
Yeah.
And in this case, all of a sudden, Mike tells me, because Mike and I just mostly knew each other through the gym, and I've got a good friend, Ryan. Ryan reads comics or whatever it was, and I'm kind of like, okay, well, this should be an interesting conversation. Then Ryan starts hitting me with Battle Chasers, and he knew who JR was, and like had this more thorough knowledge. I'm like, oh, this is a good conversation that I wasn't expecting at 1 a.m. at the Cactus Club.
Yeah. Well, and then do you remember the next time we ran into each other and you did what Evan Cagle did to me on Instagram, which just like totally blew me off?
I didn't recognize you because it was so dark in the Cactus Club the night before. All I remember is Mike's.
I got a natural flashlight, buddy. I got a natural flashlight. I just remember walking over to you in the same place. And saying, "Oh, hey, Cam," and you're just looking at me like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Well, I was not in didn't have my wits about me that first night, but I do remember we had a good conversation. So, cool. Is that your final answer?
No, and the Chicago Cubs, the greatest baseball team of all time. They are the inspiration behind everything.
Wow.
In North America. Wow. Yep.
Octavio.
Yeah. At least since Wrigley Field's been around.
He's about to fight you. Too bad David's not here. He might have your back. He might be.
Or do they cheer for different teams? That's awesome.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, David's Cubbies and Octavio's Sox fan.
So this is a question for the forum here. Like in Canada, we all have our hockey teams, right? I'm an Oilers fan. Everybody else cheers for crappy teams. But
We cheer
it's
for
not a
hockey
big
teams.
deal. What's that?
We cheer for hockey teams.
Yeah, I cheer for first draft pick teams. Yeah. But is it a complete deal breaker if you cheer, if like you meet someone, you're like, hey, that's a pretty good guy, and then it turns out that they're a Cubs fan or a Dodgers or a bullshit fan. I don't know. But
I don't know if you can take it too personally if they're not actually from that town, right?
correct. But let's see what people like, because
Yeah.
baseball is America's sport, right? Well, NFL would be, but nobody really cares what team it is because they're just there for the gratuitous everything.
Yeah. Tailgating. Everybody's on team tailgate.
Yeah, exactly. Team tailgate. That would be a great shirt. I would wear that.
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah. That's like, was it Rob Lowe at the Super Bowl wearing like the NFL hat? Like, just NFL. It's like me wearing stripes. Yeah, refs. Mhm.
Football.
Player safety.
But yeah, is it a deal breaker if one of your friends cheers for a different, or someone you just met cheers for a different team than you? Would you be like, that guy's not cool?
Well, usually I pity them because they're cheering for the wrong team.
See, and this is the problem with opinions, right? But
Yeah. Well, it's like Team Canada. Like I would never. Yeah.
But that's not an opinion. That's just fact, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I can't think. I'm trying to.
I like Ryan.
Vancouver. There are some rivalries where I do get. I will judge them if they cheer for the team, like Vancouver Canucks. Like I don't get it. I actually will. If you do like that team, I will think less of you. I will inhibit our friendship.
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to, oh, you must be from Vancouver, right?
Yeah. Or you must be even dumber than I thought.
Like, I respect Maple Leaf fans because it's like Rangers fans up until '94, right? Like,
Yeah.
put in a lot of work.
That's true, and it's propaganda. Like TSN, it's supposed to be the sports network, is Toronto Sports Network. Like they don't get it.
Right.
Dan has a good answer to that.
Yeah, garbage people. That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's very good of bootlegging to include those people in his or her circle. So
Yeah.
So Jay brings up Blades of Steel.
Oh man.
The most classic, probably the preeminent hockey video game up until NHL '94. It was always Blades of Steel before that.
I have that on Nintendo. I have that here.
Oh, did
What? Blades of Steel?
NHL '94.
That was the
On
greatest.
Super Nintendo, though, right?
Yeah. So I've got this like cheap Chinese knockoff Nintendo that has 614 games loaded on it, and one of them is NHL '94, but it may be KHL '94. Like,
That's amazing.
I did a dirt biking game for 2 hours on there.
Yeah. Yeah, when the best player in the game is Vladimir Kachikakov, that's not like legit.
Sorry, who are you asking next?
We'll go to Zaff next.
Yeah, I don't think I ever grew apart from comics, because it was always so close to me, and I always stay on the periphery, But yeah, maybe probably after high school, I kind of distanced myself from it. But I don't remember exactly what I came back to, but it was like a natural pull towards comics again. So
that'd be good.
Title that I came back to.
Because
Did you ever? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you were showing us pictures of yourself, your 14-year-old self when you were younger, and yeah, you look like you're 25. But
he's like
said
he pulled his hand in that Foo Fighters video.
Yeah. Well, you said that was right after you'd made your first comic. So I
Yeah,
thought about you with this question, how you may have never really left it.
exactly. There were a couple of years after high school, especially, that I didn't draw at all, or maybe draw very little, and and probably about 2 years that I was completely, outside of comics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anytime Zaff's on the spot, power goes out.
I just need reaching over and grabbing the cord.
Thank you for reminding me. uh, that was good. That was good. I'll tell you.
So Zaff,
So
when I don't, sorry Ryan, I interrupted you the first time. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, was there any a time period where you're more kind of sucked into the mainstream? Like you said, you were on the periphery, but like, was there an era where you really enjoyed what, let's say, like the big two or what Image was doing with any of the major characters?
I think the more the time I was the most into main two big two issues was growing up, when they used to send my dad boxes of comps and stuff like that, and that was my life. I bred comics. So that was probably the the most intense period of comic love that I ever had, growing up,
Yeah,
and that
that's cool.
really marked the way, after that.
Well, and Zaff, what I just wanted to touch on quick too is interesting for me, and you've spoken to Goran Parlov before, and I was trying to commission you years back, and I was asking for homages to your father's work, and you were kind of pushing me in Parlov's direction because that was your favorite version of the Punisher, and I thought that was so weird. I'm like, this is Jorge Zaffino's son, and he's telling me he wants to homage Goran Parlov, and but obviously I love Parlov too. But my question is just, Parlov was probably fairly prominent when you were, clawing your way back in. Was he one of like the more modern guys you're really drawn to?
Probably, yeah. And the thing, I actually went to. I always try to go the Parlov way when I draw Punisher, because I love the design. I love the look he has, the feel he has, and I think he nailed it. When my dad got Punisher, I think they let them play around with some character changes that much, so he had to stick with the the leotard thing.
Yeah, Zach style. Yeah.
And I think he would have wanted to go a different route. With the Kingdom Come comic, I think most of the first part of the comic is, him in almost military gear. So he always tried to go that way, but they were very strict with costume designs and stuff like that. So, and I really love what Parlov did with the character.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that is one of my. It's my favorite modern Punisher run of all time. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, Michael, you're up. This question takes a few different angles for you because you weren't into comics as much as a kid, but
Go on. Sorry.
No, I was just curious, maybe what is not just the comic that brought you in, but what's the comic that you read finally and you're like, okay, Cam and Ryan aren't complete idiots. This stuff is actually pretty cool. Like, did you have a moment where you thought, no, I'm really enjoying this?
For that moment where I think you're not complete idiots.
I'm waiting.
And they never come.
I'm joking. You set that up. It was just too easy. Jackie said something the other day that I couldn't help but say a dad joke, and she's like, I was like, don't set them up. Just don't set them up. Yeah. So little known fact, I actually was huge into comics as a kid, but I didn't buy any. And that's
And
My
you dice clay.
yeah, not comedians or comics. I meant actual paperback comics. And what it was Mad Comics. So
Mm.
when I was like 9, we went to visit my aunt in Saskatoon, and she's like, "Oh, does Mike want these comics? The boys are done with them. They've all moved out," because I have these cousins that are 15 years older. And so my dad's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And they're Mad Comics, like. So I grew up reading like Don Martin's Captain Klutz and all the like. They're those weird shaped books. They're like this big, and you just flip through them. Spy versus Spy. Like it was all the stuff from the '60s. It was incredibly racist. And it was incredibly. It was kind of poignant too, because like, you could see Mad Comics Mad Magazine was all about making fun and trying not to give a shit about very serious things at the time, right? So I'd be reading these books that are talking about Cold War. I'm like, what's the Cold War? Like it's over, right? Berlin Wall fell. But yeah, it was kind of neat to read those. And then like once I read those, then I went to Hardy Boys, read all those books, and then it was like high school, university, beer. So I didn't read anything. And it wasn't until I started hanging out with you folk that I'm trying to remember the first book that I read or series, because I never read like floppies. I read.
Yeah, we know why.
Yeah,
they get destroyed.
Yeah. Just to clarify that, Ryan lent me some floppies, and apparently I think I dog-eared one of the pages, and he's like, "What the hell?" I was like, "Sorry, I didn't
do that." I think you were afraid I was going to lose my mind, and you were probably pleasantly surprised that I didn't lose my shit.
Well, you made one comment, and I was like, "Oh, I've ruined it forever." But yeah, so I think I want to say Red Sun Superman was the first book that was like, "Hey, this stuff's pretty cool." But it may have been what's the one about the reservation in North Dakota?
Scalped.
I think that was the first one you guys lent me.
Yep.
This guy.
That's a heavy thing to lead you off with, that book.
You're like, hey, this. What do you think? Maybe it was God Country. I think I read God Country first.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's kind of like I went into it because Ryan told me, he's like, yeah, it's like pretty powerful, like the story of the old man, and I didn't quite get it at first because he's like the guy's going through dementia, and then he gets this sword and it converts him into like the superhuman, right? But yeah, like every story matters a little different to everybody. And I really like Scalp. I grew up in a northern community. You can see that sort of stuff happening. Red Sun Superman was just really cool because you know all the characters, and just to see them like flip and just kind of get that idea of like, oh yeah, we never really considered that Superman's American. What if he wasn't?
Yeah.
And not being American, it's kind of nice, we're the pimple on America, so we just kind of we're good in Canada. But if you
really ball sack.
What's that?
Really huge ball sack.
Yeah.
The beans are above the franks.
If you're from a country that's maybe doesn't agree with America's policies as much, having Superman would be really convenient, right?
Well, that must have been a little surprising for you too, because reading it, you probably didn't realize how much you actually do know about comics, right? Like you're reading that, you're like, oh, I know enough about Superman to realize why this is interesting. This is upside down. Like you weren't as green as you thought you were.
Yeah, like my whole history of Superman starts in like 1979 or whenever the first movie came out.
Like when they were filming in Calgary. Greatest city ever.
Really?
Yep.
Edmonton must have been busy.
Yeah, like that whole drunk Superman stuff took place at the scrap plant just off of Deerfoot.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, Superman 1 was filmed in Calgary.
There we go. Calgary just went up yet another notch in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Only they had a good hockey team.
Yeah.
And for those people watching, Mike lives in Calgary, so
Yeah.
um,
It signs the major part of his paycheck. This is complete.
And well, Mike,
I do.
I just want to touch on what Mikhail said here. Matt and Archie almost supersede comics. I know all sorts of people who have read those two and whom would not be interested in Big Two or anything else. It's really fascinating. And I think I know quite a few people too who just maybe never made that leap. And I think with you, Mike, it was just you're very open-minded and we pushed this stuff on you hard.
Great.
But if we didn't, you probably wouldn't have. You probably would have fallen into those categories of people that Mikhail's talking about.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have gone to a store and picked up a Deadpool floppy. Like, oh, I saw Deadpool.
Still haven't. Yeah.
I did pick one up and I was like, back on. Go ahead.
Well, I recall us at the comic book store, and you had like 6 floppies in your hand, and I tried to get you another one, and your response to me was, I don't really want to start reading these, and you were about to buy like 6 of them.
Yeah. So I have a lot of problem with like not finishing things. So like the book I'm going to review right now is like, it's like a hangnail. It's like, or a sliver. It just aggravates me to no end because
this is so ironic. Like your job role is completions. Your job is finishing things.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah, which is hilarious around the house because like I'm the master of 75% around here.
80-20. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you drawing?
Yeah, what's that drawing?
I'm doing some. Oh, see, yeah. Sorry, I'm not having the stand. My stand broke, and I can have the other camera.
Oh,
I'm doing some remarks.
Oh shit!
Nice.
That's great.
On a few combs. Well, I actually have a huge pile of combs.
You're like Mike at the store.
Those are all the books I've been hearing. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a few signed and remarked books for to give to local comic shops here in Argentina.
Nice.
So they can sell or raffle or whatever they want. But I thought this will be faster than doing and dealing with all the workload I have. So this is fast and it might help a little bit. So
Speaking of which, Zaff, ML was the recipient of Lobo.
Oh, nice!
Oh.
Thanks.
Mikhail.
Incredible.
Nice work, Mikhail.
Yep.
Yeah, so we just I don't think we mentioned that because you weren't on the last show, but yeah, very cool, awesome piece going to an awesome guy. So
Thank you.
So I guess we're actually going to do regular segments now. Tonight we're going to do some stuff that we haven't done in a while. So we're going to go to Mike first because he has been the one, like we said earlier, who we've been most trying to silence as of late. But Mike has a very special review. He told me that last week, he told me that this 65-page novella that I wanted him to review, he told me that was going to take him 4 weeks to read. So tonight we said, do an individual floppy and don't wreck it. And Mike was going to review this 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Zaff, this is your first Conan issue that Mike's going to review.
Oh, bag of bricks.
I don't know if I want to be here for it.
And so Mike's notorious for Wrecking Floppies.
Yeah.
I have 2 copies of that book because, as you guys know, we all love that issue, and I got 2 copies. One is, I think, the regular print, and then one was one of the second or
Originals.
third printing variants.
You have the copy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can survive with a torn floppy. I got 2 copies. Actually, I don't think that doesn't count as a copy at all.
Oversized one.
The artist edition, I guess. But so I have both of the issues sitting in my son's room in a little shelf we've got built for him, and I grabbed 2 copies and I looked at both, and I didn't know. I Googled which one was easier to get a copy of, because that was the one I'm going to give to Mike. Because when he wrecks it, I can just order it again. So
yeah, because you are lucky if you even get any remorse, let alone any kind of replacement.
So that was my decision making. In the one, that was my thought process, Mike. I thought I'd throw some digs at you. I do appreciate you doing this. So we'll dig at you. I know we're keeping you away from work, but yeah, we'll go easy on Mike for the rest of the show. Okay.
No, it's all good. So to follow up that story, I actually ran to Cam's house, and that's a good reason to give me like floppies that you don't care about, because then they jiggled in my backpack for the run home. But he actually gave me Conan the Barbarian Exodus issue 1, issue 1, and issue 4. He's like, yeah, here's the series that Zaff illustrated. I was like, great. And
Give you the library of your allegiances.
It was so funny. As I was looking through that, I'm like, why do I have 2 copies of Ribbick's book? Like, I really like it. I'm like, what was it? Why did I buy 2? And then I'm like, I'm gonna give them both to Mike, because if I can inconvenience him just for like a few minutes, like get him to accidentally read the same issue twice, I'll get a little bit of a laugh out of that. So
yeah, you are a slight incline in his life road.
So I'm going to keep it quick, but I'm going to review both. So this is the issue 1, Exodus, Isad Ribich's book. And what I liked, so a few weeks ago, probably 4 weeks ago, we talked about, Evan was on, and we talked about, does the story matter? And people had really good opinions on that. Like, does the writer matter? What's more important, the writing or the comic, the actual graphics? And I was like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but being open-minded, I was like, okay, let's hear this out. But this book has no legible writing. It's got some stuff at the end when he's fighting with someone where it's in like ruins, jibber jabber. But it's still a really good story, because just like all comics, the art tells half of the story. But in this case, there is no other half. It's just, this is the story. And I like this because it did help me focus on the color and the shading. Like you can, and the other part that really stands out is when Conan starts off on his Exodus, like he looks like a kid. And then at the end, when he gets near after he fights the wolf and the cougar and the bear, and then he goes and drinks goat milk, like here, that's the Conan we're kind of familiar with, right? Like now he's a warrior. And that's kind of a cool intro to the story. So then I don't know what happens in issues 2 and 3. I imagine a lot, because then we get to this. And Conan really big and badass. And there's a remark actually that Cam showed me of Conan standing on this heap of bodies, and he's got arrows stuck in him, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like he's just is at least as thick as I am wide, which isn't that impressive, but it's
Like a comic book.
yeah, at least 3 millimeters thick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this is a great story, and I've never seen it before except in the OA. Like I think Cam had a lot of the original art, or maybe Ryan, it was yours. But
Nope. Nope. It
no.
is in one collection altogether.
yeah, there's this. I've never seen it with all the word bubbles, so it was really cool to read. You know, having now read this that had no word bubbles, and then having read this, but previously, like a year ago, I think I like looked through the pictures and I got the story just from the art, and then to read it now, like the art is even Zaffino's on here, so it's gonna sound like I'm just sucking ass, but
You can correct that immediately afterwards. We know you got that in you.
no, yeah.
Once we go offline,
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, Gerardo, your
read me one.
line work is so messy. No, just, like stuff like this where he grabs that little, like, was this here, this sort of stuff, Gerardo, was this like artists or the writer's notes to you? Like he's going to grab something and he's going to wear it over his face to protect him, or was this your kind of thought process?
No, yeah, that was Jason Aaron works in the script. So he produces art so detailed, but also open to interpretation. You don't have forced camera angles or anything like that. So he describes what happens, but you can go and tackle it whatever you want. However you want. It's not. He doesn't give you too many details, so you can play around with what is happening, but the actual action, it's in the script. So he was grabbing. He needed to grab the pirate flag and make a bandana out of it.
Cool.
Yeah, so I agree with Dylan. Like that scene where he's putting the dudes on the dock, really cool. I think I actually want to hear it.
And it was it
Yeah.
Like the whole thing. Well, I mean, so to me, my favorite part about this issue was Conan's done it all. He's conquered it. He's king of town, right?
Yep.
That's a strong bad or Homestar Runner reference for those of you who dabble in Flash. But
can you hear the echo?
Oh, you're right, Mikhail. I should highlight things in here. That'd be great for Cam's library. The references, or what I really like about this is, so get back on that track. Conan's the king of town, and he's bored because he's done it all. He has everything that he could ever ask for. He's like, man, this sucks. He just misses the fight. And I think I'm not Conan, I know, but a lot of us have that, right? Where we want, like we live to strive, right? If you will. So I can't say I identify with Conan, but I identify with that feeling of like when he's laying in bed and he's all injured and his doctors and priests are like, oh, whatever's wrong with him is manifesting physically, and he's just like, yes.
Yeah. I could feel something again.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. That I feel, right, and I really like that about this issue. I assume it's the only issue that's ever come out other than number 4, other than number 1. But, yeah, I remember Conan as a kid, like when it was Schwarzenegger, but
I feel like
I would love to read the rest of them and some of the other ones. I think this was a cool jumping in point for me.
I like that it was a standalone. Like it was a total story told in one comic. Like you don't like there's not a lot of those kind of single issue arcs that feel complete like that. Like you didn't need a ton of lead in. You knew who it was. You knew what his position was, and he was bored. It was a simple concept, and it was drawn beautifully, and it was, yeah, it's what you would want to see in a Conan issue. But they seem to stretch things out for so long and to make things a little convoluted that is a great single one-shot issue for Zaff to tackle.
Yeah. So, Zaff, is this the only version you've done, or are there other issues?
Number 8?
I did issue 8 as well.
Okay.
And that's previous to issue 4. In timeline wise, it's previous to issue 4. So
yeah, because this was this like, this is right out of continuity? Was this kind of like Aaron's like, I'm throwing this, I'm gonna drop this in whenever you're finished?
No. The whole first arc with all Mahmoud stories. The Exodus one is a standalone story. It's not issue 1 of the whole first goes back and forward in time.
I think that Jack's been reading the Conan issues. He's out there punching a lion right now.
All he's had to eat today are popsicles, and I think someone fed him a blizzard at dinner. So, yeah, tomorrow and tonight are going to be a nightmare. Anyways.
So,
still with you, Mike.
Oh, I'm done. That's all. I've been waiting 4 weeks to say that. Thank you for the
But
yeah,
so that's good.
Great work, Gerardo. I don't often get to sit in a chat with someone who's drawn something that I enjoyed. So
yeah, being nice at all. Yeah, like, that's impressive. That's about as high praise as you can get.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because you're in a chat with Zaff every day of the week, Mike. And so, are you implying that you never enjoyed anything of his until just now?
I don't think he implies it. I think he directly tells you. It's like, yeah, hey, Mike, you're the type. What is it? You'd hand me a bag of bricks if my balloon was flying too high.
This is probably my favorite piece of Zaff work ever.
Yeah,
that's
a standout.
Yeah, that piece.
This was pretty sweet. I almost considered reading Lobo because of this.
Oh, you should.
I should. Yeah.
Now for full issues, do you like predominantly it's a lot of cover illustrations, and there's been like the collectors are dying to see you on interiors. Do you want to do that, or do you kind of like, hey, I like tackling like the flagship, like the scene at the front of the.
I like both. And
okay, Switzerland.
Sorry, what?
Switzerland, staying neutral, like always. Do you love some things and hate some things? Maybe.
That's my thing, dude.
Yeah. You're allowed to show us that you're human.
No, but I have some interior coming soon. I can't say anything about it, but there's pretty big announcement coming soon.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked about it. So.
It'll end the pandemic. That news will be fucking endorphins released globally. It'll be huge.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
The ground running.
Yeah, more news soon.
Well, and I guess next time too, Mike, I couldn't find my copy of issue 8 for Gerardo's Conan, so I wanted you to review that one as well, but we'll do that at a different time too, because I know some
stuff. I can send you one, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the remark.
I will personally pick it up from your house.
Road trip. Let's do it, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Wild Beard and the Sumerian. Hit Argentina.
Oh, could you imagine? How many countries do you think we could get through before we kill each other?
I don't think we'd ever kill each other. I think that we managed to avoid destroying each other. Like we inadvertently evade each other's trap. It's like spy versus spy, but it's like red lasers and blue lasers. They just never hit. We just probably kill Cam.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's issue 8.
Oh,
Yes.
Awesome.
That one had a tight turnaround, didn't it, Zach?
Sorry, what?
That had a tight turnaround. The schedule on that was pretty tight, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was a shitstorm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens. Happens sometimes.
First character I kind of routinely drunk, yeah. And it was accepted. For some reason, Conan's aged well, being a total like philanderer misogynist. It's like, oh, he's just old school.
yeah. Conan's like a grandpa with biceps.
Just don't read what he wrote.
He's just grandpa. Not head dog. That's what he.
Well, you know what's really funny though, because like, Pisker, he'll review Wizard magazines, and I was flipping through some stuff, and I actually found like a sealed Wizard from 2003, and right inside the first cover, it's like everybody at the magazine just violated the bro code. Like they have, how they have like statistics. It's like 23, neck blisters rendered, right? They detail somebody's bachelor party that works at Wizard, like in the publication of the comic. Like it's like no bro code in 2003 in comics, I guess. Like I'll find it for you. I'll read it because I'm reading this. I'm like, oh my god! Like these guys are probably lucky to have women that like them in the first place. Like, and they're gonna go just throw them under the bus with mass publication. I'm like, what the fuck? And then you go through, how everybody kind of plays it political. It was right after Hush ended, and they had one editor that liked it and one editor that hated it. It just like blows it apart. People don't talk like this anymore.
I'll have to see that in person.
Yeah.
Just wait until
Alex Ross. An interview with Alex Ross.
Oh wow.
Greatest artist alive.
Just wait until Zaff's creator-owned book is just a shot-by-shot remake of what went on at Fan Expo last year. That'll be
oh my god,
violating the bro code.
You want to talk about like a victor writing his own history? Like he will make him look like he's just a total like Prince victim throughout the whole things, and we're like Conan with arrows in our backs, but we're trying to kill him at every turn. And he's like, oh no, I was having a magical time. People loved me. I was polite to everybody. I didn't cheat at pool, I promise. Yeah.
Well, the only cheater at pool just left somewhere. So, Ryan, let's go to you. I know you got some art to share, so let's
is Ryan still here? Comic book guy.
He hasn't said anything in a while, but Ryan, if you're on the chat, and the Epic is referring to Fan Expo.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Epic favors, the reason that this is currently in Canada right now was Byron. Like brought this all the way back from New York. So no, David, you went to bed early like you did every night. You just play, pocket pool. So for some reason, Ryan posted this cover. So Silver Surfer Black, and it's a really strange relationship between variant covers, popular variant covers, and original art and the comic content itself. I don't understand it. So that's why it was really interesting to me that like the slab guys and the rare comic chasers told me that this piece was like a really popular comic right now. So hopefully Ryan's still there to comment on it. But Silver Surfer Black, they had variant comics sent to, I don't even know how they work, to tell you the truth, but I ended up getting one from Peach Momoko, who did a variant cover for number 4, I believe. So Byron brought this all the way back from New York to Canada, bought it its own plane seat, and it is bigger than you think. So I brought a comic just to show you scale. But here, I'm going to go turn on a light so you can see this better. But this is kind of like Peach Momoko, Japanese, super sweet, really talented artist. Did this watercolor painting for. I'm gonna go turn the light. Just give me 1 sec. Silver Surfer Black. So it's a giant watercolor. Let's see if this works. Okay, hold on. It's really cool concept because she hasn't had a lot of an opportunity to get in the mainstream stuff. So tell me if you can see it. I got the computer turned the other way. Can you see that?
Yep, that looks good, Ryan.
That's great color.
So it's like it's huge. It's like 18 by 24, and it's like you can kind of see the Asian or Japanese influence in it, right? And it's like it was a really unique take. So if Ryan's there to comment on why this issue is super popular, I bought the piece because the art was available and really cool. So.
Well, Ryan, was the first time you were exposed to Peach, was that at Chicago?
Yes, C2E2. She was doing some really neat stuff with black light ink. So I don't know if you can see this. Variant cover guys are treating her like the mafia, pumping and dumping penny stocks. I don't know what that means.
Ryan, who's the artist?
Anything pumping and dumping it. Anybody, it doesn't seem like it's good. So
who's the artist? Sorry, I had to step out for a bit.
Peach Momoko, and she's got kind of like two styles, like the traditional exposed my peach. No, Byron, Toronto Fan Expo was the first time I exposed my peach. Yeah, like she was doing some horror stuff, and her boyfriend, who manages a lot of it, does most of the speaking. And she was doing this really intricate ink work, but she also did stuff with black lighting. So you turn on a black light and reveals another hidden image, right? So, yeah.
I think I like this stuff better than the Tradmore stuff.
Yeah, she's got that kind of more youthful manga style that, Sailor Moon stuff, but she does some horror stuff, like Asian horror stuff, really, really well. So I have a couple of pieces from her, and really intricate ink brushwork. Looks like it takes a ton of time, and so this is one of the pieces that I managed to have. It was one of the variants.
Before you told me who it was, I was like, it looks like Tradmore, but better. So
yeah. You can see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
I got one more piece. I'm going to grab it. I'll just, we'll do a little peach showcase. And I asked her to do this. It's another larger one. It's from like everybody seems to like Cyclock. How do you even say that? How do you say that, X-Men? Cyclock, Psylocke?
I always say Psylocke, but
Psylocke. So there was a tiny little stint in the middle of X-Men where she was Lady Mandarin, like during that Acts of Vengeance thing. And that character design, I've always liked it, right? Like it's one of my favorite villains, and those two covers that is two of my favorites. So that was actually the first commission piece I had her do. Was a Lady Mandarin in kind of like that Asian horror style that I was just blown away with how nice this piece was. So why can't I ever figure out the way the camera works?
The reverse camera thing is the worst.
I know. Like I could never be like a space pilot. This is terrible. I'm doing a terrible job. But like another oversized piece, and the line work is just crazy, right? And I think it's a perfect character for her. I think she's actually trying to see if she could petition Marvel to take a run at the character. So.
And Ryan, for this one, she opted out of the black light process, right? Because she didn't want to take any details away from it.
Yeah, like I had both the pieces that I asked for. I wanted kind of like that black light. I thought it'd be really neat with her knife thing. But yeah, she said that she'd have to sacrifice detail in order to incorporate it, and she thought that the piece, she didn't want that for the piece, and I liked the result the way that she did it. So this is actually one of my favorite commissions I've ever got. Like it's, I kind of gave you a brief look, but the detail is just crazy, and it's a really neat piece.
David is a stunning individual.
David is what? Psylocke. Yeah. I kind of like Psycho Lock, like Psych Lock. Like Psych! Pop and lock, like a breakdancing move. You know? Psych, yeah.
I've never asked this before, Ryan, but what's the connection with you and Lady Mandarin? Because you have a few commissions of Lady Mandarin.
Yeah, like it's a character design that I've always liked. Like there's two. She only showed up briefly in the middle of an Uncanny X-Men run, which was kind of like that first run where Jim Lee was doing those covers that were just outstanding, and like that one where she's got like Wolverine, like he's unconscious, but she just kicked his ass, right? So I think I got him right here. They're on the spinner rack, but like. It's this Acts of Vengeance run, which was one of my favorites, right? Like this cover. This was one of my favorite covers.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why. It just kind of stuck with me and something I've always liked, and I didn't realize that it was such a brief appearance in continuity, right? So yeah.
I'm gonna have to check out that Ennis Punisher, Cam.
I don't think I've ever lent that to you. I think I gave you the Aaron. Did I pass on the Aaron Dylan Punisher? That Punisher Max?
Yeah,
which is also great. But yeah, I'll have to give that over to you because I know you're not a huge fan of the Ennis madness sometimes, the Ennis Dylan Preacher madness. Yeah. This has a bit of that, but maybe not quite to the same extent.
Yeah, my thing with Ennis is like he gets pretty misogynistic, and it feels like he's really hopeful. And I'm like, I don't have any time for that. Like it's 2020. But it was written in 2000, or 99 or whatever, right? Like the world's changed.
Well, and one thing. Next time we bring Stefan on, I want you two to talk about this because I know you two talk quite often, and Preacher is Stefan's, that's the preeminent work in comics for him. And he kind of has an interesting explanation for some of these statements and, the borderline, not politically correct stuff that Ennis does. And it's really interesting. Stefan, I think, he loves Ennis and he loves Preacher. So I'd love to hear you guys go back and forth on that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm always open to another point of view.
It's kind of like Mad Magazine, where it's actually supposed to be taken as satire.
Yeah, maybe
he's doing it.
I'm reading it too holistically or whatever.
You keep getting those runs in the middle of something that's really serious. Like, didn't you have Alan Moore's Swamp Thing? And then we gave you The Boys. Which, if you pair anything together, it could be a pretty stark contrast. Like if we gave you Silver Surfer Black and Anything Good.
I think I read Saga. Yeah, that's what I read Saga, and then I read Boys. I was like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
And if I would have read it the other way around, it would have been fine, right?
Yeah. And it's who they write to now, too, right? Like Preacher came out when it was kind of like a teen, non-superhero type of demographic, whereas we're getting stuff that are written specifically for adults, right? Like you get the odd outlier, like Alan Moore will write like The Watchmen, which is definitely geared to a more mature audience, but I can see you having to sacrifice a little bit to try and grab people that will actually buy the comic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Being on the Silver Surfer, I just brought one more piece to show, and then we can see some of the hidden masterpieces in Zapp's collection.
Cool.
So one of the things that I was going to pair loosely is for Silver Surfer fans, one of the toughest things to get that are usually outrageously expensive or even trying to get a collector to let go of is Kirby Surfer. So I have one Jack Kirby page at all, and it happens to be from graphic novel. So it's the only Jack Kirby piece that I own. And I'm very, very happy to have it because they are not easy to come by at all as an original art collector.
Yeah, that's madness.
Yeah. So like, my question is, I don't know, but like he's credited with inventing like a ton of different, like the Kirby Crackle, this is loaded with it, which might be one of my favorite things to A, doodle, and B, see on a page, because I think it's just mastery with its simplicity. Like it's so cool.
That's all done by hand, right?
Yeah.
All that Kirby Crackle.
Yeah, and there's a little Galactus in the corner if I know how to turn the camera.
Yeah.
You see a shadow right there?
Oh yeah.
The only thing that it doesn't have is Surfer's board. Like he does, like this is, I like to think this is Zimmerman off the 10-meter board into the deep end. Little belly flop. Yeah. And this is actually 10 seconds after he lands because he's so weightless he doesn't even sink into the water. But yeah, like those are being an OA collector and being as active and trying as hard as I can. You don't see a lot of them, and trying to find one is really difficult without paying an arm and a leg for it. So,
it's interesting, Ryan, because I know there was some Mr. Miracle Kirby stuff you were looking at for a little while.
yeah.
But with I know, just talking to you, because I really like the Mr. Miracle pages, but I know you weren't as sold on them because for you, and I don't want to speak for you, but is Surfer by Kirby your real sweet spot? Like
For
if
Kirby?
you're pairing that artist, is that the character for you just with your love for the character, or is there something else too?
Like as far as like a legitimate pursuit, because like I don't have the quest for All Red Surfer anymore. But at the time there was none out in the wild. Like he had kept all of the issues personally, and he just like timing at the right place. I was the only one on the planet other than Mike to have any All Red Silver Surfer at any point, right? So that those two were right there, but with how hard it is to get like a great example of a Kirby Silver Surfer without having to pay upwards of $100,000, it's like it's, as far as the original art side of it being collector, all of it kind of married into one, it probably is.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I guess thanks, Ryan. Thanks for the Surfer Art Show.
No problem.
Now, I guess we're going on to Gerardo. He's got a piece or two he's going to share.
Yeah. Well, these are from my collection. Actually, they're my sisters too, because these were all pieces that my father used to trade with other artists back then. This is the first one. I have a few.
Oh, Jesus.
This is Dr. Zero. This was a book that came out on Epic from Marvel. And this is Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz on Onions. I just found out. And this is always one of my favorite ones.
So Bill Sienkiewicz is probably, outside of your father, would you say that he's your biggest influence or your favorite artist?
Oh, yeah. He's done.
I like that it's signed to Warhammer too. That's cool.
Yeah, personalized, that's super cool. And so did your dad do a lot of trading? Like how many artists do you think that he traded artwork with?
We have a bunch of there you go. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of pages, but he didn't do the trades, personally. But they didn't return original from outside the US. So they didn't ship them back. So
we gotta get them.
Asked Dixon to hold them from him. And Dixon, and then he asked, he was going to a lot of cons, and he asked Dixon to trade some of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
and
it
are
wasn't
these
like he didn't pick any of the pages I have here, but there's a lot of really great pages.
Zaf Kwan has a question. Do you know what your dad gave Dennis for?
Oh yeah, I think it was they traded a lot of stuff with Dennis. I have a few watercolors by Dennis and everything. A few question pages, question covers. And my dad, I think Dennis has a bunch of 7 Block stuff. I think he actually has one of the paintings that came out in 7 Block, inside covers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Dennis is the one that has some around, he must have around 10 to 12 pages by him.
Oh, jeez.
From all the pieces by him I have here. So
Wow.
Well, Zaf, and speaking to that, because I know you touched on it briefly when we were hanging out in Toronto, but it sounded like for the most part, guys were coming to your father for art. It wasn't necessarily him as an art collector saying, let's trade. It sounded like most artists were coming to him looking to trade. Is that kind of right?
well, yeah, I think so. I was, I was growing up back then, and I wasn't in the loop. But talking with Dixon afterwards, I think he just went to a con and said, "I have Zaffino pages here," and everyone just went crazy. And so he, he offered them, and everyone just went nuts.
Sort of like your intro at Fan Expo. Yeah.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I think the filter was Dixon. Dixon picked what to trade and what not my dad. That's what I was. But there's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, in here.
So are you
with Cohen? No, with Cohen he did the trades himself when he was in the US, because they became friends and
right?
They trade him personally, but all the other pages are by I've traded by Dixon.
So are you doing that too? Like, are you really enjoying the art trade too? Because your stuff is crazy too. Are you trading with a bunch of artists?
I have a few outstanding trades. I have a trade, I have to get to with Troy. He did an amazing piece for me, and I'm intimidated at the fact to get to his piece, because that is pretty awesome. And I never actually, I only traded like 2 pages, previously published pages, and then I always get offered to do commission trade, and I never find the time for it. So but yeah, it's something that I really like to do, because I love having art from other guys I admire.
Yeah, you owe me a piece.
I know.
You owe me an inked piece.
You only can. So.
Oh, did I not get you a scan?
Oh yeah,
No, I
you
haven't.
did.
That's right.
Yeah, I owe you an ink.
Don't you Evan Kegel me. It's all good, buddy. You're busy. And yeah, it's a little busy right now, as I found out, because your country isn't even open to receive any kind of shipment. So I don't think there's any rush.
That is crazy, yeah.
Zaf, is there anyone out there that you haven't traded with yet, that you haven't talked to yet, that maybe you don't know on a more personal level, that you'd like to trade with? Or someone that you want art from, maybe a modern guy that caught your eye?
Well, we were talking about Goran before.
Yeah.
I think I would love a Punisher page by him. Yeah, a lot of modern guys. Sean Murphy, I wanted to do a trade with him. Sean Gordon Murphy. There's a bunch of guys I want to trade with. Jason Sander.
Oh yeah.
Love his work.
Awesome. Yeah, you love his work for various reasons.
Yeah.
Some I can't mention here. No, JSA is awesome. And
Yeah.
I actually have a painting of his hanging in my house right now. It's a little
Yeah.
little graphic for dining room viewing, but it's gorgeous. That guy does some crazy stuff.
Okay. I thought you mean for like our audience, and like,
Oh no,
that's why it gets censored.
no,
Yeah,
our
I
audience,
find-
along
yeah.
with our group, we're all a bunch of criminals, so that stuff's okay.
It's like the artist trade stories. Those are, you know, how you always kind of want to know what happens in the locker room or behind the scenes and stuff like that. Kind of hearing an artist's view on what they like that other artists do, I find is a really interesting storyline.
Yeah,
Especially when, you know, we're seeing one thing and then we get educated quite quickly on certain things.
oh yeah.
Yeah, because it'd be like me showing Mike a spreadsheet and being, you know, like, hey, look how this is. I got the equals formula in that. And he looks at it, he's like, well, and he waves his magic wand and my computer explodes because he can't even handle it.
You know that story about my dad, and Russ Heath. That is mutual respect that goes around. And actually, I have another one. I used to have this hanging up, but I had to change the frame because it was going bad. This one, my dad had hanging on his studio.
Oh, geez.
Ever since I remember he had this hanging out in his studio. This is from the Blade Runner adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
By Al Williamson, and it's dedicated.
Wow.
Those bottom two panels are outstanding.
Yeah.
You just like it because it says Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, Zaf.
That's so cool.
Are there skin tones?
Is there tones on that? Yeah. Is that what you asked, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they went kind of blue with time.
Yeah, blue over time.
Yeah.
Like even the negative, like the lighting on the fat guy's face next to him. It's like, I think I read, like your dad was obsessed with the way light works. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was, what was the painter that he would obsess over? Rembrandt?
Rembrandt, yeah.
Yeah. So like, same thing, like the lighting in that is super neat. Like, did you do the same thing? Like
I try to.
Yeah. But it's amazing how you can make eyes illuminated with a dark face. And you're like, how does this work?
It's just contrast, you know?
It's amazing.
It's fun to play with. Yeah, I like doing that. And yeah, I grew up with all this stuff, so I think it makes sense that I like doing that.
Have you learned a lot from the pieces that your dad was getting from other artists on how to do different things? Because
oh yeah, I used to go through he had a folder full of originals. I used to go through them, and yeah, you can see stuff in the original art that you can't see in the printed page. You know, it kind of tells the story of the piece. You can see where they use whiteout. You can see where they, you know, you can see sometimes they erase a line, but it leaves a mark, and you can see lines that they didn't use in the end. So
yeah,
I love original.
Seeing corrections probably is a really comforting thing, because like I grew up thinking that comic book artists never erased a line, like every line was placed perfectly. So seeing masters with a bunch of whiteout, like an Arthur Adams piece with whiteout on it, you're like, oh, thank Christ.
Yeah.
Well, Zaf,
like,
yeah. Sorry,
just a question. Just going back to that Williamson piece, do you know what about that piece your father had so much affection for? Or just, you said it was hanging on his wall for so long.
Oh, yeah. He was a huge Williamson fan. So I think it didn't matter what it was, he was going to hang it in anyway. But we were also huge Blade Runner fans.
Mm-hmm.
So
oh, cool.
It just click all the boxes and
yeah,
yeah, never to be
that's a great page.
So that might have been one that your father actually sought out, that trade.
I don't think so. I don't know the story about it, but I don't think so. I think it came with all the others, but it was
Oh, wow.
obviously something that caught his eye.
Yeah. And I guess that's something that we take for granted too with the Providence with some of this stuff. Like we have instant communication. There was probably like letters going back and forth. Like that Teats story, for example, right?
He used to FedEx original art, and I mean he sent faxes of the sketches of the pages, and then just FedEx the final pages. So between the sketch and the final page they got, it was just complete silence from.
No tracking numbers, nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. No.
Wow.
It was different.
Unrelated, Zaf. For you, is it Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049? Which do you prefer?
Oh, Blade Runner. Yeah, all the way. The original.
Did you like the new one?
I liked it, but in a different way. I tried not to see it as a sequel. I tried to watch it as a different movie, and I like it. As a sequel, I didn't like it as much. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's a good way to think about it. I like the standalone.
So, Mike, here's a question. Out of everything that you've read, if you could have a piece of art out of something that checks all of your mental boxes, what would it be?
Oh, Ryan, I'm going to need a couple long runs to think about that.
How about that answer comes next week?
I actually had to, when Gerardo mentioned that Jorge was a fan of Rembrandt, Ryan mentioned it, and then Jorge, Gerardo talked about it. I had to look. I was like, where have I seen a Rembrandt? And I've actually seen.
You own one. You own one. There's one.
Yeah, just over here.
You took it off the wall to put on the Swamp Thing.
Yeah, right. No, at the Rijksmuseum in Holland, the Night Watch, and it's massive. So it's kind of neat to see. I just had to look it up again to be like, when you mentioned light and Rembrandt, I was like, what was it about that? And anyway, it's a beautiful piece.
You have pretty much everything Rembrandt at the Rijksmuseum. Yeah.
Yes.
Almost all his pieces are there.
Yeah. And I was like 13 years old, walking around being like, can we go look at tanks? Right? Like,
yeah, can we go where all those red lights are and check out the tanks?
Oh, that's
13,
that's
Mike.
very cool.
Yeah, ferocious.
Yeah, think about that, Ryan.
Yeah, that's your homework. But guys, we promised that we'd keep it short this week. So I think that's probably as good of a point as any, just to move on. We'll probably have a few more tangents next week once we get a little more organized. But yeah, that's all I've got for tonight. Any final words for the crew tonight, fellas?
I hope everybody is happy, healthy, and safe.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and got some cool stuff coming your way next week as well. So we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a good night, guys.
Yep.